Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage our hostess for the evening, Nancy K. Simpkins.
Good evening and welcome. It will probably not surprise you that my middle initial K stands for Klingenstein. I've been a member of the Klingenstein Center's advisory board for the last 29 years. I'm a trustee of the Esther A. and Joseph Klingenstein Fund. And last but not least, I'm one of John Klingenstein's 4 children. My mother is here. My mother is here, my siblings are here, as are our children, and many other Klingenstein relatives. All of that is just to say that as a family, we are very proud to be associated with the Klingenstein Center and what it stands for. We have a lot to... I am totally not used to people applauding. We have a lot to celebrate tonight. Pearl and her visionary leadership. And 40 years of you. You represent the past, the present, and the future of independent school leadership in education. You have taken what you've learned at the Klingenstein Center and changed the schools you work in. You are leading the change you seek, to paraphrase the center's tagline on their brochures. In the 1940s, my grandfather, Joseph Klingenstein, created a foundation. The Esther A. and Joseph Klingenstein Fund was used for the next 30 years as a vehicle for his charitable giving. After my grandparents passed away, my father took over the running of the foundation. He had no experience. As a matter of fact, he was an engineer by training, and then spent about 15 years as the head of the research department in the investment banking firm my grandfather had started. Dad could have kept things just the way they were, but he wanted the foundation to reflect his and his brother's interests. It's the 1970s, and he wants to create a couple of program areas that are meaningful to him and the family. He decides that one of those program areas will focus on education. Academics is one of those things that is highly valued in my family. As kids, we all knew that our parents would be proud of us if we did well academically. Sports and the arts didn't get quite the same degree of attention. We have all benefited from an independent school education, including Dad and his brother Fred. The questions Dad wanted answers to were, what was needed and how could a small foundation make a difference? So he did his research. He knew what he didn't know and was always willing to listen to those who did. He gathered together a group of educators, several heads of school, and Lawrence Kremen, the president of Teachers College, and asked them those same questions. At the time, few independent school educators elected to study at schools of education, but those advisors made the case that there was a need for the kind of professional development a school of education could offer. Theodore Sizer, the headmaster of Andover, was one of those advisors that Dad sought out originally. This is what he had to say to Dad in a letter at the time, and I quote, "The plan for a Klingenstein Fellowship for independent school teachers and administrators is an admirable idea and can fill a large need. I particularly endorse its placement in New York City at Columbia's Teachers College. One of the independent schools' greatest current weaknesses is their isolation. both from the center of American life and from education writ large. We need to be close to our colleagues in the public and parochial school establishments, to scholarship, to fresh ideas, and to the city. Based on the advice of those educators, Dad made a leap of faith. The foundation committed to a 5-year grant of $275,000, which was the largest grant to date to an institution that had never been a recipient of the fund's support in a field where he had limited experience. Dad was placing a great deal of faith in Larry Kremen's personal leadership. The rest is history. The original program was launched in 1977 to recognize outstanding teachers and prepare them for instructional or administrative leadership. Pearl was one of the 12 fellows in that original graduating class of 1978. In 1979, she became the executive director, and since then, every program offered has been known for its academic rigor, collaboration and teamwork, a focus on the how of teaching and learning, and lastly, a sense of social justice. Pearl never settles for the status quo. She is always striving to grow and improve the programs. As most of you have participated in one or more of the programs, I am not going to give you a timeline or description of their development. For those of you who aren't familiar with the programs, may I suggest you visit the center's very fine website at www.klingenstein.org. The foundation has stayed with the mission of the program area for 40 years. During all that time, Dad stayed engaged, but out of the way, though not so far that he didn't hold Pearl accountable. Of all the program areas at the foundation, Dad has always felt closest to this one. When he stepped down in 2013, my brother Andy took over as president. You will hear from him later on. But right now, I'd like to introduce Arthur Levine, who I think I also introduced at the 20th anniversary. I'm sure he is no stranger to many of you, as he was the president of Teachers College from 1994 to 2006. He has not sat idle since then. He is currently the president of the Woodrow Wilson National Fellowship Foundation. He has authored 12 books, numerous scholarly articles and editorials in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and many others. He is the recipient of many awards for his writing, including the American Council on Education Book of the Year and the Education Press Association's Annual Award for Writing. He is the winner of Carnegie, Guggenheim, and Rockefeller Fellowships. He is currently on the board of Say Yes to Education. I've left out a lot of titles and awards, but we all get the picture. Arthur knows education. Please welcome Arthur Levine.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we're here to celebrate the realization of a dream and to honor the leader who made it possible, Pearl Kane. I want to tell you 4 stories. First, after I'd been selected as president of Teachers College, I was at a dinner party in Boston where we lived. My dinner partner asked, "Does Teachers College do any work with public schools?" It seemed an absurd question, given the history of the college and the people on its faculty. In hushed and awed terms, he told me about the Klingenstein Center. When I arrived at TC, there were 125 full-time faculty. Only one focused on independent schools. There were dozens of centers and institutes. Only one focused on independent schools. I met Pearl Kane, John and Pat Klingenstein, their families, and visited the Klingenstein Center. I immediately understood my dinner partner's error. Pearl Kane versus only 124 faculty was a mismatch. Second story, I was on sabbatical in Poland. My wife Linda had a Fulbright, and our daughter Rachel was playing softball for the American School of Warsaw in a tournament with the American schools of Berlin, Budapest, Moscow, Prague, and other former Soviet republics. In the course of the game, each of the school heads came to meet me. I wasn't surprised. After all, I was the president of the top-ranked education school in America. They all said the same thing to me. Do you know Pearl Kane? Could you send her my greetings? My feelings were badly hurt, but I wasn't surprised. In 40 years, Pearl Kane turned John Klingenstein's vision of educating a generation of excellent independent school leaders into nearly 4,000 alumni from 49 states and territories and 54 countries. In the process of making that vision a reality, Pearl became a model. She set a standard for what a professor could accomplish and what a TC program could hope to achieve. Third story. One day I ran into 4 Klingenstein fellows, all senior administrators at independent schools, walking down 120th Street. They looked absolutely awful. They looked as if they hadn't slept in months. I was concerned. I told them they looked tired. They told me Pearl Kane was impossible to keep up with. Affectionately, they said, she was running them ragged. Now, Pearl Kane puts the Energizer Bunny to shame. She makes him look like a wimp. Pearl Kane not only created a suite of programs spanning an independent school leader's career, educated 2 generations of those leaders, shaped policy and practice at independent schools, wrote, consulted, spoke, and served independent schools, brought public schools and independent schools together, and was an amazing mother, wife, colleague, and counselor to many of us. She made John's dream a reality, far greater than could have been imagined at the outset. Final story, a frequent occurrence, not a unique event like the others. John Klingenstein came to TC from his home on his bicycle. He met with the Klingenstein Fellows. He loved them. They loved meeting him. In Yiddish, what we'd say is, they gefelled in each other's company. At the conclusion, Pearl told John how wonderful those sessions were and thanked him for creating the program. And John did what John always did. He slouched. He shrugged his shoulders. He said a few words, and he bolted from the room. With humility, John and his family gave their time, their commitment, their love, and their generous support to create a center, now an institution, that raised the quality of independent school leaders and the schools they led all across the globe. Tonight, all I can really say, on behalf of all of us, is thank you, Pearl. And now, please welcome Pearl and Richard's grandchildren.
Hello, my name is Samara, and I am a great fan of my grandmother, as I assume most of you are. Forgive me for a quick baseball metaphor. Are any of you baseball fans? Yankees fans? I'm an Orioles fan like my brother. I'm gonna go with an Orioles player. J.J. Hardy is that kind of extraordinary player that everyone admires. Someone who has that rare combination of talent, compassion, grit, and just loves playing the game. Grammy is like J.J. Hardy, not only amazing at what she does, but also stellar at helping everyone around her excel. I know so many of you have been touched by my grandmother, and maybe you know this, but she's also a really awesome person to talk to. I love being with her because Grammy always has interesting and thought-provoking comments, and we always end up giggling together because she is honestly one of the funniest people I know. I'm always told that I look like my grandmother, which is great, but I hope to take after her in other ways as well. I hope that I can have her compassion, determination, and adaptability. And I hope that I can make a difference in as many people's lives as Grammy already has. And now, now you're going to hear from my brother and cousins.
Hi, my name's Noah. I know most of you all are here for at this gathering for my grandmother's work, but I'm going to talk a little bit about my grandmother being grandmother and all her amazing qualities, like being kind, generous, driven, courageous, and loving. Whenever she sees a problem, she uses all those amazing qualities to fix it. But there's normally not a problem in our house because my grandmother's living in it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eli. I just want to say that my grandmother is one of the most selfless, nice, kind, and amazing people that I know. So, I love you, Grandma. Thank you.
I'm Josh. Don't worry, my speeches aren't long. I want you to raise your hand if my grandma, Pearl Kane, is an inspiration to you. Wow, look at that. And this is just a small portion of the thousands of people that my grandma has inspired. She inspired me too, teaching me to be hardworking, smart, and funny. We love you, Grandma. We're so proud of you and your work.
Hello, my name is Zachary. Thank you, Grandma.
Hello, my name is Lila, and I think we should just skip the speeches and go out to dinner. Bon appetit!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Nancy K. Simpkins.
Well, apropos to absolutely nothing, how cool is this room? I mean, really. Our next speaker is another extraordinary leader who is putting the final flourishes on an exceptional tenure. Susan Furman is a globally recognized education policy scholar who received her PhD in 1977 from Teachers College, working with future Clinton cabinet member and university president Donna Shalala. Dr. Furman went on to found the Consortium for Policy Research in Education, the nation's first federally funded education policy center, and to serve as Dean of the University of Pennsylvania's Graduate School of Education, where she led the creation of a university-backed pre-K through 8 public school in West Philadelphia. In 2006, Dr. Furman returned to TC as its 10th president and the first woman to hold the job. On her watch, the college has achieved a number of major milestones. Dr. Furman has been responsible for hiring more than 70 new faculty members who are leaders and often creators of their fields. She's presided over the creation of a new policy department. TC has launched innovative new programs in learning analytics, nursing, dance education, developmental disabilities, financial literacy, college advisement, and more, and created a host of new online offerings. The college has also founded the Teachers College Community School in Harlem, which has become a model for the university-assisted public schools and partnered with public schools in northern Manhattan. And we've created partnerships to enhance teacher education, English language teaching, school reform, and more in China, Brazil, Jordan, Singapore, Pakistan, and the UK. Finally, Susan has led the college in conducting the largest ever campaign for a graduate school of education, raising $330 million and counting to support student scholarship, faculty research, and upgrades to TC's historic campus. It's been my personal privilege to serve with Susan on TC's board, and I'm honored to introduce her now. Please welcome President Susan Furman.
Thank you, Nancy. Pearl. Pearl, look at me, Pearl. Spotlight on Pearl. Pearl, for nearly 40 years, you have provided the Klingenstein Center with transformative leadership, touching so many lives and giving love to so many people. So you heard that. That was the love coming back to you. That's what tonight is all about. Your impact reaches far beyond the Klingenstein Center's extended family. In fact, you've secured your place in TC history by nurturing an institution that will endure as the gold standard in its field, training new leaders who will go on to work at thousands of schools around the world. This is called the multiplier effect, the vast ripple effect that a single great leader and a teacher like you can set in motion. The Klingenstein Center's emphasis on strengthening both minds and hearts is critical to sharpening an educational focus on civic participation, which is, I hope, not just a personal passion, but I hope all of us are wondering about civic education and strengthening our civic society. And great independent schools can be invaluable assets in preparing students for responsible citizenship because they have the autonomy and the resources to personalize learning, design supportive environments, and above all, focus on building character. Indeed, graduates of independent schools consistently rank high in volunteerism, tolerance, and respect for others, and political participation. Pearl, your genius at the Klingenstein Center has meant that under your direction, the center has been able to recognize that such work begins with preparing school leaders at all levels to model mindful, active citizenship in their communities. The center's essence is captured by your famous dictum that leadership is a behavior, not a position or a title. Naturally, the center has responded effectively to the changing needs of today's independent school leaders by developing new programs and career pathways. Recently, for example, the Klingenstein Center came up with an innovative response to the growing complexities of running a school and created an MA-MBA dual degree program in collaboration with the Columbia Business School and INSEAD. But the greatest measure of the Klingenstein Center's success are the excellent and dedicated leaders it welcomes and the even more accomplished leaders it sends back into the world. That's your legacy, Pearl. You've been, and no doubt will continue to be, a first-class citizen of the Klingenstein Center and Teachers College and a beloved friend to all those whose lives you've touched. But in case you think that's hyperbole, let's hear what some others have to say.
I mean, this is the house that Pearl built.
She is always innovating.
She's inspired more people than she recognizes.
She's direct. She'll tell you what she's thinking.
Her passion to get to know each student, to help figure out how they will best learn.
I was in the first cohort of fellows in the Klingenstein program. I benefited enormously from learning about leadership in a formal way, and I was then asked to lead the program. The Klingenstein program started because John and Fred, the two sons of Joseph Klingenstein, who set up the Klingenstein Fund, wanted to give back to education. They had all benefited from independent schools. And so they set up this program to develop leaders for independent schools.
Having served with some of the Klingenstein family members on this advisory board, there's no doubt they have a deep commitment to independent school education and excellence that surrounds it.
Teachers College has been a wonderful home for the Klingenstein Center. What has helped to nurture the program is the supportive leadership we've had from each of the presidents of Teachers College and Columbia University.
It has been by far the most meaningful professional development I've had in my career.
When I did the Summer Institute, the whole world of education opened for me.
With each of these programs, and now there are 5, we had the support of the family, and that helped us to establish the center not only nationally but internationally.
It's amazing to think that she's helped so many people connect, but now it's trickled on into all of these other 3,000 schools that are out there and years of alums that are now implementing this in their own way.
Talking to my teachers who went through my grandmother's program, it's really interesting to get their perspective because they hold it in such high esteem and they really seem to love the program and love my grandmother as a teacher.
She puts other people before herself.
And somehow she always figured out how to make space for everybody who wanted to share. And she would know everyone's name. She would look you right in the eye and say, what do you think about this thing that was just said?
Listen to your faculty and then bring them to a higher level that inspires them to really reach beyond what they currently have.
She's helped me think through what are those behaviors that I need to develop and cultivate in myself and then in others as I lead leaders.
Being your authentic self is something that I hear both in your leadership class and in other classes that I'm taking.
Leadership is not just emails and budgets, it's trying to craft a vision, trying to bring people along with us.
I'm working with her as a lead teacher and now a co-director on the Summer Institute. I've seen another side of Pearl and how she's visionary with her programs.
It's sort of amazing, no matter what the group is, there is a single Klingenstein experience, and it's characterized by passion, energy, really hard, positive work ethic.
If you go to a Klingenstein reception, it is so incredible to see the energy in the room and the great leadership all kind of working on kind of what's next.
My family has been a great source of support. My husband is really supportive of the work that I've put into this program. He would tell you I work too hard.
She has never taught a class in 40 years, actually more than that, that she didn't virtually completely rebuild, despite the fact that she's done it every year for 20 years.
As I look to the future of the program, I hope that the vision will include to never be completely satisfied, to constantly look for ways to improve and grow.
I can hear Pearl in the back of my mind sometimes asking us, is it useful? Are you clear? What are you accomplishing?
I can't think of one program or one experience I've had with Pearl where she hasn't ended the experience asking, how can we make this better next time? And that's inspiring to be around, and it's certainly impacted who I am.
You leave the center having been touched by Pearl in a way that you think about how can I be better at what I do and how can I inspire others to be better at what they do.
I love you, Grandma. Congratulations.
I love you, Grandma. Thank you for everything you've done for us, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on your work at the Klingenstein Center. I love you, Grandma.
That was lovely, Pearl. What a tribute. But we're not done with you now, Pearl. We'd like to honor you in 2 important ways. Tonight, we're not only celebrating Pearl, but also the newly created Pearl Rock Kane Endowed Scholarship Fund for students enrolled in the programs of the Klingenstein Center for Independent School Leadership. This scholarship will extend Pearl's remarkable legacy to include future students of the Klingenstein Center. We thank those of you who have contributed your support and ask those of you who haven't yet contributed for your support. Thank you. And Second, Pearl, we now have the very distinct honor to present you with the Teachers College President's Medal of Excellence. May I ask you and Provost Tom James to join me here on the podium. I was looking for the other side.
The President's Medal for Excellence. Pearl Rock Kane, in 1980, when TC President Lawrence Kremen asked you to become director of the fledgling Klingenstein Center for Independent School Leadership, you told him, "I don't think I'm the person you want for this job." You had your reasons. You had not grown up in wealth or attended an independent school. You were a woman in a male-dominated field. You were a fierce advocate for social justice, unsure your views would be welcome. President Kremen replied that you were exactly the person he wanted, and for the past nearly 40 years, you have proved him right time and again. Building on his example, you have opened the doors of independent schooling wider and wider, preparing ever more diverse cohorts of leaders. At the same time, you have broadened the concept of what a school should be. You have taught, as Susan Furman said, and as you said, first, that leadership is a behavior. It's not a title or a position. Indeed, every improvement you have made to the Klingenstein Center has been in service of that powerful idea. Legions of Klingenstein alumni have been empowered to dream boldly, believe passionately, and act with confidence and joy. They have understood themselves in a new light as role models for young people, demonstrating how to function as members of communities devoted to deep learning and ethical practice. Certainly the alumni have been enlightened by what they have learned from the Klingenstein's programs, but they have also seen how you conduct yourself with gentleness and kindness and grace, caring, humor, intelligence, and always a keen eye for constant improvement. Pearl Kane, great institutions are the embodiment of great people. The Klingenstein Center will continue to grow and change under new leaders, but its heart and soul will always remain a reflection of your own. For all that you have given to your students, for your tireless efforts on behalf of Teachers College and the Klingenstein Center, and above all, for being yourself a center for so many lives and careers, I am proud to award you the Teachers College President's Medal of Excellence.
Thank you so much, Susan and Tom, for that wonderful honor. I'm truly humbled and very grateful. I also appreciate all of you being here and making this event so special. Thank you, and I know you come from many from long distances to be here, and that means a great deal to me. Before I start, I want to apologize for looking at you on a slant. I've had cervical spine surgery, and while I'm not in pain, I have not corrected yet my alignment, so please bear with me on that. I'd like to share with you my journey here. You've heard a lot about it. Maybe I can add a little continuity. Because I arrived in 1977 on a year's leave from the Dalton School, having been awarded a Klingenstein Fellowship. I never imagined I'd stay on to earn a doctorate, direct the Klingenstein Center, and become the first female tenured in the Department of Educational Administration. But in so many ways, my life has been about embracing the unexpected. That includes the moment my husband Richard and I learned that the new sibling we planned on introducing to our 16-month-old rambunctious son was in fact triplet sisters. We actually talked about whether we should bring them all home together or one at a time. And we thought if we brought them home one at a time, he would go crazy thinking there was no end, you know, that we really did. So both experiences with my husband and children and with my extended Klingenstein family, all of you here, have been love affairs with all the attendant joys and challenges. Partly because I am driven and partly because my 4 children drove me, I returned to teaching when the girls started nursery school. For 2 years, I taught in public school. I taught middle school. I taught students bussed in from Harlem before losing my job in a massive teacher layoff in New York City, and I had low seniority. Luckily, I landed a job at the Dalton School, where so much was different. It was clear who was in charge. There were high expectations for teachers and students, and you could teach within the system rather than having to subvert it. My Klingenstein Fellowship came 2 years later, the result of the vision of John Klingenstein, who brought it to Teachers College, and you've heard, because they were so grateful for the independent school education they and their families had in attending independent schools. They wanted to give back, and they wanted to ensure that there would be strong leaders for independent schools. They were very bold in seeking to do this at an education school. Independent school educators often rejected ed schools as being insufficiently rigorous or too theoretical. And for their part, ed school faculty often dismissed private schools as elitist and irrelevant to solving society's problems. Both sides were partly right. Education degrees generally lacked rigor and depth, and private schools served mainly white, Anglo-Saxon children of affluent families. Jews or Catholics were often not welcome. And even following the civil rights movement, when most schools began to open their doors, white flight academies were created to keep those doors shut. Certainly no longer true. The new program at Teachers College attracted talented teachers because the Klingensteins had wisely involved independent school heads in their planning. Gardner Dunnan, who is here tonight, was Dalton's head at the time. He worked closely with Lawrence Kremen, who was then the president of Teachers College, in crafting the program. And I was fortunate to be selected for the first fellowship cohort, and at the end of the year, invited to assist in running the program. So the day after receiving this invitation, I met President Kremen on the M4 bus going to Teachers College. And he told me that I would also be pursuing a doctorate and that he would be my advisor. And I have to tell you, I was so intimidated by President Kremen, who is an intellectual giant, that I didn't even question it. And you should know that Lawrence Kremen has been dead for over 25 years, and I'm still afraid of him. So. 2 years later, I was asked to lead the center, a wonderful career-changing opportunity. In the early 80s, independent schools still used outdated pedagogical practices and stood apart from the larger community. Developments in cognitive science were ignored. School leadership was a solo enterprise. The success of independent school graduates often resulted more from student selection and the school's connection to prestigious colleges than from instructional effectiveness. To change the picture, we had to do our part to break down long-held stereotypes about education schools. We had to demonstrate that professional knowledge, such as theories of change and organization behavior, could be applied to improve schools. Our programs had to be relevant, rigorous, and substantive. For example, the Summer Institute for Beginning Teachers started in 1982, and it addressed teacher attrition, which was most pronounced among the most capable teachers who hungered for intellectual challenge. That program introduced teachers to the inherent complexity of teaching. The Institute focused on brain research, child and adolescent development, curriculum design, and understanding diversity in all its forms, and techniques for collaboration with colleagues. Subsequently, we began a program to reinvigorate school heads by immersing them in the study of moral leadership, current issues in education, and research. We also added a full-time master's program in educational leadership. Previously, most teachers grew into administrative positions by simply learning on the job. Our goal was to professionalize leadership preparation by including ethics, law, cognitive development, marketing, finance, and negotiation. And as Susan mentioned, just a few years ago, we added an MA, MBA with Columbia Business School and INSEAD. Each of these programs serves independent school educators at a different career stage, but all develop and renew leaders by focusing on 5 core values: improving student learning, behaving ethically, working in collaboration, committing to social justice, and incorporating reflective practice, because reflection on action is what leads to continuous improvement. Above all, whether as principals, school heads, or master's teachers, we hope that our alumni embody my mantra, which is that leadership is a behavior, not a position. For my part, I try to follow the old adage by taking myself lightly and my work seriously. I've stayed motivated and enthusiastic because of the extraordinary people who come to our programs and through their participation make the programs better. We stand on the shoulders of 4,000 alumni who include most of you here this evening. The Klingenstein Center is your legacy of achievement and innovation. Your success has earned us the long-term support of the Klingenstein Fund and the Klingenstein family, whose generosity has exceeded $51 million. And thanks to the Klingenstein family and our generous alumni and friends, we annually award over $1 million in scholarship aid for students. Still, we need to keep challenging ourselves by asking, how can we best prepare students for leadership? What knowledge, skills, and capabilities are required for leadership in the 21st century? What should be the core curriculum? And what characteristics should we seek in admitting students? And we need to change with changing needs. We want the center's programs to shape the very nature of the leaders who will continue transforming independent schools. And we want our alumni to be beacons of excellence for all schools, because with their resources and autonomy, independent schools have a responsibility to demonstrate exemplary practice. I don't know what my career in New York City public schools might have been, but being laid off led to the world of independent schools and ultimately to the Klingenstein Center and the chance to work with exemplary professionals on creating an institution bigger than any of us. I've loved what I do because independent schools are best described as joyous places. In most schools, teachers are happy because their work is honored, their leadership is nurtured, and they are viewed as behavioral role models and scholars of practice. When I visit schools, I typically stop a student in the hall and I ask, what is best about the school? And the response I get almost always is, the teachers. And it takes skillful leaders to support and develop teachers to be their best. Meanwhile, my family has thrived. Bradley is an expert on wine. His three sisters, Laura, Leslie, and Lisa, are successful women who juggle motherhood and careers. Michael, Mitch, and David, our three sons-in-law, are wonderful guys as well. And Richard and I are proud grandparents of the 6 you got to meet this evening. I'd like to close by thanking Teachers College. As both a researcher and advocate for equity and justice, I cannot imagine a better home for the Klingenstein Center. John Dewey believed that education isn't merely preparation for life, it is life. In the most personal and literal sense, that certainly has been true for me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Jim Scott.
Good evening. I'm going to ask Pearl to stay on the stage with me for a moment. Thank you for letting us do this for you.
Thank you.
I'm Jim Scott. I'm head of Punahou School in Honolulu, Hawaii. And I've come 5,000 miles to honor Pearl Kane. I'm also a member of the Klingenstein Center Advisory Board. I'm an alumnus of the center. It's my honor to represent nearly 4,000 independent school educators, teachers, leaders, founders, who through the years have been inspired by Pearl. Pearl's former students and her colleagues each have their own personal stories of how she has impacted their careers and their lives. There are far too many stories to share tonight, but a short list of enduring images capture their essence. Pearl, your former students, your alumni, describe you as an admired thinker, scholar, an educator, a connector, a lifelong mentor, and as an inspiring visionary, an innovator, and a disruptor, long before the term was a badge of honor. As a dynamo, the energizing binary, as you heard tonight, a vigorous force of nature. Usually with your finger on the pulse of independent school education, Pearl, you provide a continuous reminder of our vital partnership with public schools, always challenging us to be private schools with a public purpose. You also challenge the assumptions and mental models that constrain us, showing us how we might become more creative, more innovative, more curious, more expansive, more reflective, more flexible, more diverse, more inclusive, more global. And you taught us, just as we've heard all night, that leadership is a behavior, not a position. This lesson is echoed in the lives of thousands of Klingenstein alumni who seek to make a difference by shaping the future of education. Alumni who are embodiment of your vision and your legacy of your leadership. Pearl, we are your legacy. So Pearl, on behalf of those alumni, the advisory board, and the Klingenstein family, it is my pleasure to present you with this gift, inscribed with both your words of wisdom, but also with this dedication. It says, with our deep admiration and heartfelt appreciation from the countless independent school educators who you have inspired around the world. Pearl, we admire you, we thank you, we love you. Mahalo and aloha.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Andy Klingenstein.
Good evening. My name is Andy Klingenstein, and I really only have a couple things to say. In fact, uncharacteristically, I'm going to edit myself. I had more to say, but there are really only two things I want to say. First, I want to talk a little bit about Dad's relationship with Pearl, and then what lies ahead, as if I could at all address what lies ahead. That's rather presumptuous. I'm sorry Dad couldn't be here tonight. I know he would have wanted to be here, and is here in spirit. I think that the relationship that Dad had with Pearl is quite remarkable, and not quite enough has been said about it, so I'm going to say a little more. The relationship that Pearl had with Dad was a relationship built on mutual trust, affection, and gratitude. Pearl once told me that she was grateful that Dad would come down from his office. And here I must say I had a vision when she said this of Zeus coming down from Mount Olympus to travel all the way uptown to Teachers College to be with the students and with her. What Pearl did not fully appreciate was how important these visits were to Dad and how special was his relationship with her. I think Dad was grateful to Pearl in the truest sense of that. Indeed, outside of family, I'd say that these visits and the relationship with Pearl were among the things that brought the most joy to him, a word that, as my family knows, I do not use casually. I cannot tell what lies ahead. We all know that there are many challenges facing education today, and therefore facing the center. We do know, I think, and we could say with confidence, that the center is in a good position, having enormous advantages, including the 4,000 alumni here, the strength of its programs, its staff, etc., that you've heard about. And almost all of that lies at the feet of Pearl. Pearl was responsible for that. So I think we're confident in what lies ahead because of those assets. And one additional thing that gives us confidence is the choice of the next leader, whom I think the next leader would say that she, among all the leaders that are in this room, that she was in part advanced as a leader because of the work of Pearl and her experience with Pearl. So now I would really like to recognize and welcome the next leader, Nicole Furlong. And thanks on her behalf for the applause, but I want to tell you a little more about about Nicole, for those of you who do not know her. And I know that many of you do. Nicole is a longtime teacher, a master teacher of teachers, and a scholar of education. She knows the center well, since she has served as a faculty member of its summer program, and her husband Nigel has been a student in 2 of its programs. And I learned last night that there's others in the family that have benefited from the program, so she knows it well. Nicole has the qualities of a leader, among them that she is a careful listener with quiet charisma. And lastly, she has a compelling personal story, which she has written movingly about. So I'd now like to ask Nicole to stand and be recognized. I think I exit now in favor of Nancy, who will close, but before I do, because she's going to thank folks, but she won't be thanking herself, so I want to thank her. Thank you.
Well, I get the last words, and I'm going to use them to thank a few people. First of all, most of you know or have had some contact with Jessica Sepke in the Klingenstein Center. Everything that looks like it came from the center had her stamp on it. You have no idea how many details that involves, and she did it with equanimity and poise. I did my best to help, but I probably just got in her way. Everything you see here and in the rotunda was pulled together by 360 Design Events. Not only are they masters of all the mechanics, but they are also masters of giving the planners, Jessica and me, confidence that all will go smoothly. I would also like to thank the Klingenstein Center Advisory Board. They have been a support and sounding board for Pearl, and now Nicole, we will serve you in whatever way you choose. Dean Tom James and the search committee, thank you for all of your work on the search. It could not have been an easy task. And lastly, Pearl, thank you is inadequate for the years of passion and dedication and hard work that you have devoted to all things Klingenstein. I settle for that because I know you did it for love. No one could work as hard as you do if they didn't love what they do. May I suggest that we all raise a glass to the woman who has been our leader for the last 38 years. To you, Pearl. Thank you all.